Hello? No mic? No mic. Okay. Let's try this again.
We can hear the mic. Yeah.
We can hear it.
Oh, you can?
We can.
Oh, well, why can't I? That's
It's
really
from the
weird.
speakers, yeah.
Okay, great. So
Yeah.
anyways, thank you for the introduction. That was beautiful. I'm like, who is here that fits that introduction? Thank you, Amanda, for the sound, being the sound person.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. So, how deep is your rabbit hole? As the lyrics in the song White Rabbit, which was written by Grace Slick and, of course, as most of you know, recorded by Jefferson Airplane go, remember what the dormouse said. Feed your head. What on earth does that even mean? That may mean different things to different people, and at nothing at all to some. To me, I interpret it about being the thoughts I am having that may lead to certain triggers. And it's those triggers that take us down the rabbit hole. I have to consider the beliefs that I'm having and how they might shift my perspective. Because that's really what it's about. Our perspective shapes our beliefs, and our thoughts shape our perspective. So we need to listen to what the dormouse said. I guess he's up there now. Okay. So let's consider what you're feeding your head. We really, really need to pay attention. What I've learned over the years is that I do have a choice. When something triggers me, I have a choice at that moment, that intersecting moment, where I can choose to react or I can choose to respond. Does anyone know the difference between those two? 90 seconds. That's it. If we can hold off reacting for 90 seconds, we may have a better answer for someone. For those of you that are in customer service, how often would you like to really say what you're thinking? I've done customer service. I know what that can be like. But we really do have a choice. And I've made those regretful choices where I've reacted. Someone has said something and it triggered something in me, and down I went. And it can be a really long drop, and it's really hard to get out of that rabbit hole. But if we focus, if we breathe, if we take a break, and if we're able to say, I'm not sure about that right now, I'll get back to you. But then have that dialogue with yourself later to ask yourself, why was I so emotionally triggered by this particular situation? And it's our beliefs that can cause those triggers. Some of you are shaking your heads. And I'm wondering what situations you're remembering from the past, which is, let's not even go there. Some of us spend way, way too much in the past. We need to spend it in the future. And think about what we would like to have happen. How would we like to live? Are we living the way we want to live? Or are we living as other people suggest we should be living? And I have to thank all my clients as I've been coaching for so long, because I hear so much of this. And it's truly amazing to me how people do create barriers. And don't get me wrong, I create barriers as well. But over the years, I've learned to manage them better. I wouldn't say I'm perfect at them, because sometimes I just really want to be pissed off. It feels good, right? It's like, darn it. Yeah, I just don't know how far I can go with the bad language, so I'll keep it down.
We're in construction.
Right, yeah, so I forgot about that, because I've worked with military. My husband's, he was in the police force, and I forgot the construction, and oil, right? Oil and gas, so it's all good. Anyway, there's a couple of things that we really need to understand. We need to understand that no matter what happens, we have a choice. Sometimes things happen in life that we don't have a choice about, and that is realistic. However, we have a choice in how we respond. Always. And I do hesitate to say always. Always and never are two words I'm very hesitant about. But when it comes to choosing how we react, we have to listen to the dormouse, who obviously is quieter right now. Right? Understand that it's stressful. Having difficult conversations with your staff, having difficult conversations with your family, it's extremely, extremely stressful. But it must be done. So how do we learn how to manage our stress? That's yet a whole nother conversation, right? We need to understand that it will create fear, apprehension. But if we changed our perspective, could it be a little bit easier? And understanding that having fear is natural and normal. There's a great book by Dr. Susan Jeffers. With your handouts, I've included a list of resources. It's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. That's like, what the heck? I've got this. What have I got to lose if I don't make this change? Who wants to live life, and I'm sure many speakers say this, looking back going, oh, I should have done that. Let's just do it. One of the things Dr. Jeffers also says is that it's not the thing we fear doing. It's about being able to handle whatever consequences come from that. What if I stand up in a meeting and I say this and someone goes, because we know there's the eye rollers at meetings. There's just eye rollers. Zoom was great because people could leave their camera off and they could eye roll all they want. But I'm real sorry. Eye rolling doesn't work for me. It's just so inappropriate. I'm like, if you're rolling your eyes, tell me what your problem is. Do I look scary? I'm not going to bite. Oh my God. Like, do I look scared? Like, with these shoes? Really? You'll know why I've got these shoes on in a short while. You want to understand that fear is normal and it's natural. And if you shift your perspective on what fear really is and what it does and how you could even benefit from it, then it can become your best friend. Yeah, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it. Do y'all think I'm standing up here being really calm and cool? No, I'm shaking in these shoes. And if you only knew the rabbit holes that happened before this, which you're going to hear about momentarily, right? So you want to think about, and I use this with clients a lot. Okay. I can deal with that. I'm a professional. I've got this, right? I'm standing here because if it falls through here, it's going to be good, right? Yeah, for sure. Okay, so where was I? Yes. So it's normal and natural, and it doesn't mean that when we choose to do something different or somebody challenges us that we can't just accept it and move through. But it doesn't mean we have to own it for ourselves. We can have agency of choice and go, sure, okay, I'm going to choose to be okay with that person disagreeing with me. Maybe I'll even listen to what they have to say, and maybe I might even learn something from that, right? So think of opportunities to learn and grow. The best thing about being a life coach, and my clients don't even know this, they teach me every single day. And a lot of this information in here, I have learned from them. They are genius. I write notes furiously. They have quotes. It's like, whoa, I'm so smart because of them, right? And they think I'm helping them, but it's the other way around. So it's truly about getting out of your own way. Barriers. How do we get through them? There is no other way to just go through it. No way to it, but through it. And when we do the thing we have feared the most, we can look back and go, oh, well, that wasn't so hard. How many of you have experienced that? Yeah, right? Yeah, like tonight I'm gonna go home, fall on the couch, have a glass of wine and go, oh God, that's over. That wasn't so hard, right? Give me a few more minutes, I'm just getting primed. This is vodka. You know I'm kidding, right? I'm not kidding. So, we are here tonight to I'm here tonight, and we're all here tonight, to share information about these darn rabbit holes. How do we stay out? Everything is easy in theory. Yeah, some of you may go home and go, I heard what she said, tomorrow, seriously, I'm gonna start, and then you're like, I've been to so many presentations and I've heard tons of theory. And what do I do with the stuff? I leave it on my desk when I get home and I don't implement any of it. But if you can do a tiny thing, make one tiny change tomorrow, then it's a win. All right? I have to tell you how much I appreciate your time here tonight, because your time is so valuable and you're sitting here listening to me. That is a big deal. I can't tell you how much gratitude I have for that. And you're laughing and raising your hands politely, which is great, right? So, how might we take a look at getting the courage sometimes to set boundaries? Is there anybody that maybe needs a little bit more clarification on what that actually means to set a boundary? It's not just between the provinces. Yeah, you'd like more clarification? Absolutely. So, let's use work for an example. And we'll have a quick story about that I could share that would maybe make the point. So many years ago, I was in sales, and with sales, you all know, you're in commission, right? Little tiny base salary, maybe sometimes plus commission. Your time is money. And there was an admin person who every day popped her head in my office at 10 to 9, and we started at 9, and she would talk about her family and everything they did the night, the week, the month before. And I didn't want to be rude because I was a tiny little bit of a doormat in those days, not so much now, right? And I went to my boss and I told her the situation. She asked me what I had told her, had I approached her? And I hadn't. She said, well, you go do that. I'm like, oh no, that means I'd have to grow a set, right? Yeah, they weren't very big in those days. So I did. And it worked for maybe a couple of days. And then I went back to the boss and I told her, and she's like, okay, I'll have a talk to her. So it was 3 months of bliss, because she moved her to the other side of the building and she never spoke to me for 3 months unless she had to, which is really sad. But if I had have had the courage to stand strong and set a boundary, because I was allowing her to cross my boundary. I needed to start at 9. She didn't, or she should have, but she just kind of got in my space, right? If you think of a circle around you, and someone kind of steps into that circle, they've crossed a boundary. And usually it's something that doesn't align with your values, your behaviors, and your beliefs. Did that help?
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. All right, excellent. Okay, so boundaries, identifying them, working through barriers. What are they? Where are they? Well, they're in here. Barriers don't exist out here. They're in here. We always have a solution. And if you want a little tip on that, maybe remember this and talk to yourself about it, is that when you get a trigger, that's usually a lie you're telling yourself. Think more thoughts. Cy Wakeman is a coach I really admire, and I remember her saying, it's usually the 5th thought you have on a certain thing before you can even have an element of truth in it. And if you're going to problem solve, you have to problem solve with the truth. You can't problem solve based on an assumption. I see heads. I love it. You guys are all just nodding. Yeah. I'll try and nod too, because I really believe this stuff. Goodness, after 20 years, I should, right? And also the triggers, because they can create the barriers. And how do we shift our beliefs to support us in having a life of choice, a life that we choose versus a life that we think we should live because of what other people think. I say 2 words: who cares? Now, there's a caveat to that, because that sounds kind of flippant. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to stand here and talk about whatever I want because I just don't care. Trust me, I care a lot. I have thought about this every day since November 9th, right? You told me that. When Amanda sent me a text and said, okay, you're the person. I'm like, yay. So every night I went to bed and thought about what I was going to say. And guess what? Every night it changed. It changed 2 nights ago, too. So here I am. This is like, you're the guinea pigs. This is a trial, right? Okay. So we have to think about what is best for us, and yet how might it affect other people, right? To say we don't care, it sounds like we really don't care. But we have to be mindful of the things we care about and what we tell ourselves when we do care. All right? Very important. And that's something I hear from my clients as well a lot. What will people think? I have a presentation to do. I have to have a difficult conversation with someone. What if this happens? What if that happens? Well, it just happens. So last summer we were in Ottawa visiting our grandchildren, and we got a phone call that no parent ever wants. I think y'all know what I'm going to say. You okay? Yeah. So our 40-year-old son was killed in a motorcycle accident. And there's really no emotion that you can name. It's not even a feeling you can describe. It's kind of like, the way I described it is that I felt like someone had stuck their hand down my throat and pulled me from the inside out. It's very surreal. So after I got my composure, which was quite some time after, and we just got through what needed to be done. We needed to get home. I thought about how the beliefs that I have established over the years and the beliefs that I was brought up with actually got me through. And it was the belief that my parents actually taught me is that death is part of life. And I thought, okay, I can live with that. My parents had a sense of humor that was second to none. They were like a comedy team. My mom was funny, my dad was the straight man. Well, I hope so. Yikes, was that even politically correct? Oh boy, okay, so I will never see any of you again. So they had a very realistic approach. Now, I'm lucky they were in their early 80s. I had them that long. But just hearing some of the things that they talked about when they spoke of death and dying, like they were very open about planning their they didn't even have a funeral, but planning their, what do you call it? Their thanks. Yeah, how they're gonna leave, what they want and everything. And I remember my mom saying, we're not having a funeral because I'm not paying for lunch for a bunch of freeloaders. So I went, okay, well that won't work for Colin because we wanted to have a really nice ceremony for him, but they did have a very good attitude towards it, and it's really that got me through. Thinking that he did so much with his life in 40 years, and that we had him that long. And I think about some of the things that kid did. I still call him a kid, he's 40, but that most people have not even experienced, if they lived to 300, would not experience it. By the age of 40, he'd won the lottery, been in a Mexican jail, drove over. Yeah. What's that?
I think it might have been twice.
Yeah, Amanda knows him, so she said it was twice. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, won the lottery, jail, what else? Yeah, drove over the bear. So life was always an adventure. And there isn't a day go by that I smile. And I'm grateful. So try shifting that. And my husband and I have said so often, it's not the natural order of things. Children don't die before their parents, but they do. And the question is, why? The answer is, because. There is no answer to that. And so, fall was busy, getting everything looked after, and then winter comes. So we inherited Colin's dog, Sam, who, that's yet another hour conversation. He's a chocolate lab, and you know chocolate labs, right? They eat everything in sight. Yeah, he got into something, and last night, I thought I was gonna have a great sleep, and at 5:30, he's throwing up on the floor. Right, anyway, so Colin had this beautiful dog, Sam. He was used to us, and there was no question we were going to have him as our family member. Now, we already had a 115-pound dog. Sam's 110. That's a lot of dog. And so on December 19th, and I remember the day, and I'll tell you why, I decided it was a really good idea to go to the dog park. There was a freeze-thaw cycle going on. Lots of people were slipping. And then I went running after Sam, and down I went, and I heard crack. And I looked down, and my left foot was pointing this way. So, rabbit hole number 1. I'm recovering. It was just the first couple of weeks. And I kept thinking, oh, what am I going to tell Amanda? What am I going to, I don't know if I could come. I pictured myself coming in here in a wheelchair. Do I look like I'm in a wheelchair? I can do this, you know? But I'm limping a bit, and that's why the shoes, right? So I got ones with a little bit of a heel, because I thought, well, if I don't, I might not be able to stay over the podium, for obvious reasons. However, it was amazing in that time lying in bed, and then I went, wait a minute. You coach people on this. You can't be a hypocrite. So get your stuff together, right? Think about what's going on in your head. So I lay there and I went, you know what? In 45 days, I can get rid of my crutches, maybe. And I kept thinking about all these great things that were going to happen. And it was super because my husband brought me food and coffee. I didn't get out of bed except to go to the bathroom. And it was great. Until after, there's more, until after my first doctor's appointment, January 25th. Again, I remember these dates. And he said he was having trouble breathing. And I'm like, well, that's just great. I have to get my own coffee now. And I was sleeping alone because I didn't want anybody on the bed because I had to just lay on my back with my foot straight up. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's getting a bad cold. So he ends up with congestive heart failure. Right? Yeah, oh no, it was super big oh no. And so it was 4 trips to emergency, 2 on his own, 2 via ambulance. And the 4th one I said to the nursing station, I called them, I'm like, he's not coming home. This is gonna keep happening. So we worked through that. Long story short, he's home, he's recovering, he's healthy, I can walk, right? It's all good. Except also during that time, I ended up with blood clots on my lungs because sometimes you get those from surgery, and a really bad muscle spasm, which took me to the hospital in an ambulance. And it got to the point where the ambulance, the paramedics said, weren't we just here last week? I'm like, yeah, you want a coffee? But I said, yes, you were. However, it's his turn now, right? And if you want to see something funny, watch someone on crutches trying to throw stuff into a bag to send someone to the hospital. Yeah? So, and I was really concerned because one of the paramedics was super cute. And I know him from the gym, and my poor husband. He's like the color of this floor. And they're hauling him into the ambulance, and I'm thinking, the hair's not done. I don't go to bed with makeup. So, oh my gosh, I'm like, how you doing? Right? So my point being is I don't really mean this to be funny, but it's truly what went through my head. Right? Now, was I concerned? Absolutely. You're married for somebody that long. You're joined at the hip. 43 years. I was a child bride. Okay, it's not that funny, but go ahead and laugh. So, I think that's everything, and I really do, unless there's something else I'm forgetting. Anyway, point being, there were multiple times I had to challenge myself, and I'll be honest with you, it is exhausting. Should you choose to take this step forward, and I'm only asking you for one step tonight, to think about your thoughts, don't be surprised if you're tired, because you're creating those new pathways. You're challenging what you're thinking, and that is so critical. And I've been on that kind of journey for a long time, so now I catch it sooner. It's just like, oh yeah, wait a minute, that's crazy. You know that's crazy, right? There's something else you could be thinking about. So please do yourself that favor and just challenge yourself, right? And talk to yourself like your own best friend sometimes. If your best friend said to you, oh man, I forgot this, that, I'm such a loser, what would you say? You sure are. I hope not, because if that's the case, then none of you are my best friends. But yes, treat yourself like your own best friend. So there's a couple of things that you can do. And again, everything's easy in theory. These are skills. It takes practice. And it takes looking inside and asking ourselves, why am I doing this? So I have a quick story that might make a point and it might not. But I think Reader's Digest is still on the stands, yeah? I don't know. But anyway, years ago, I read this story about this young person who had moved into their own apartment, and they were all super proud. They were going to make their parents a turkey dinner. The parents come over, and the turkey's thawing in the sink, and there's a dish drainer on top. You know those plastic where you put the, anyway, and you flip it, and it was flipped over on top of the turkey. And the mom said, why do you have that on the turkey? And the daughter said, well, that's the way Grandma always did it. And the mom said, Grandma had a cat. Right? Thank you. That's not even a joke. That's like the real deal. So I would like you to take a tiny little moment and reflect on when you have done something, and then you stop and you go, what am I doing? Why am I even doing this? This doesn't make sense to me in the least at all, in any way, right? So here's a couple of things. I started out with 3 2 days ago. And of course, in my sleep or in my whatever state I'm in, I think of stuff. I've written a whole book by waking up at 3:30 in the morning and having thoughts, and I had to put them on Post-it notes because I couldn't sleep. Is the book published? No. What's the rush? It might be someday. Okay, so 5 things. Number 1, be curious. And you want to know a secret? I know that there are a couple of corporations right now that is one of the criteria they have for hiring. They want people who are curious, who can look beyond what is normal and natural. Yeah, but we've always done it this way. Don't you love those ones at the meeting? But we've always done it this way. We can't change. Why not? Right? Yeah, but we can't, because what if it doesn't work? What if it does? Play ping pong with them. Drives them nuts. Right? So be curious. That has kept me doing what I have done for the last 20 years. Prior to that, we moved around somewhat with my husband's job. And I had a variety of different jobs in different industries, but they just really didn't do it for me. And when I met a life coach and she told me what she did, I'm like, that sounds like fun. Nobody knew what a life coach even was, but I decided to be it. So here we are. But I've stuck with it for 20 years because if you have coffee with me, not that you have to, I'm just saying, but I just absorb whatever people tell me. You tell me about your life. I don't care if you worked in the supermarket in the produce or you were the president of Coca-Cola. And I don't know why I'm interested, but why do I have to know? I just know that I am. And when clients talk, they can sometimes talk for 25 minutes straight until I find a hook and I ask them a little question and they go, oh, I never really thought of that. I'm like, great, well, you have now. So there you go. So be curious. Why are things done this way? What is the purpose? We have to take a look and see if we can be leaner. Leaner is a big deal right now. I know that because my son told me. I don't know anything about it, but when he talks to me about spreadsheets, my eyes glaze over. He's very logical, right? And I'm like, okay, bye. Gotta go. So curiosity will get you everywhere, period. All right. How many of you are naturally curious? Lots. Okay. Well, those that didn't put your hand up, talk to these curious ones here. You did put your hand up, right? Be compassionate. How many of you think the world could use a little bit more compassion? Yeah, don't we all? Compassion is a funny little word because it's actually a two-parter. And the two parts are empathy. That's the first part of compassion. We must be empathetic. We never know what someone is going through. We just don't. Everybody has a story. Everybody has great things to share and joy in their life, and everyone has heartache. And a client told me this, and I absolutely loved it. And it's made me pay attention to my own biases, whether they're conscious or unconscious, is that no matter whether you're drowning in a lake or you're drowning in the ocean, you're still drowning. And by that I mean I'm paying attention to being very charge neutral with people, because when you have lost someone you love, for a while you tend to think, that's nothing. You should know what I'm going through. And who wants to have that thought? So it's still to be compassionate for people no matter where they're at. I'm compassionate for somebody that cuts me off in traffic. Seriously, right? That was funny. I love it. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't funny. You were the funny one. So I'm compassionate because I have learned that maybe that person is suffering and they weren't paying attention. And if they were just being not a nice person, I almost said a word, then that's okay too. But I will never know. Do I need to know? Absolutely not. Right? If everybody thought that way, we wouldn't have road rage, I think, right? So, be excuse me. Oh, I need more water. Be compassionate and show empathy, but make sure there's a boundary. How many of you have listened to someone that you care about the same problem or challenge they're having over and over? Okay, I won't even finish that sentence because I don't have to. And it is draining, and that's where, for the, ma'am, I don't know, what should I don't know, what's politically correct now, right? The person in row, whatever. That's another example of not setting a boundary. And I had a friend who had guy issues, and this was years ago, and it was every night the same time, and I'd be like, oh, and it was before call display, so that really sucked. Because I could ghost her if I knew if it was her, but it was the same thing all the time. I didn't set a boundary, and I would stay up till midnight, and I'd have to work the next day. So it was all on me that I didn't say, I love you, but. So be empathetic, and yet know where the boundary is, because you're not doing them any favors. It's then we become an enabler. And we don't want to do that because it makes their problem bigger. Then it becomes our problem because then we have to listen more. So know that there's a practicality piece. So if you're going to be compassionate, you have to use those two hand in hand. Know where to draw the line, and it's different for everybody. Yeah, but what will they think of me? That's being mean. No, it's not being mean, because if you allow someone to kind of trample over your territory, really, we're the ones that are being mean, because we're not teaching people how to honor boundaries. Okay, all right. So be an effective communicator. How many of you would like to learn how to be a more effective communicator? 100%. How many times have you thought, oh, that could have gone way better if only I had have said this, this, and this, and if only I would have said it in this way. We are all different. Really interesting situation. I just thought of it now. So I have a client, and we were talking about love languages. How many of you are familiar with love languages? Isn't it awesome? Yeah. And so you can use it at work. And so she was feeling a bit upset because her boss wasn't acknowledging what she was doing, and she felt she needed that. And I went, okay, well, here's this like easy peasy, no charge little quiz. Go do that. So she did. And guess what her love language was? Words of affirmation. Right? Yeah. Mine's acts of service. So could somebody bring me a sandwich, and I'd really all, right? So be an effective communicator, because you can. And there's one thing that we can all get better at, and that's listening. Active listening. And there is a free quiz online. The person's name is Oscar Trimboli, and you just type in Oscar Trimboli listening quiz, and Oscar will give you Oscar. Okay, no, like personally. It tells you what is your listening villain. I don't want to know what my listening style is. I know that. Like, it's just I want to know what gets in my way. I'm a shrewd listener, which means I'm 9 steps ahead of the person that's talking, and I'm looking for a solution. Boy, as a coach, if I ever had to slap my head and dial that back. So there's a shrewd listener, there's an interrupter, that's self-explanatory. Lost, yeah, tell me more. Yeah, what did you say? Sorry, I just got to answer this text, right? Or dramatic. So somebody's telling you about their vacation, and you say, before they even finish, never mind that, you should see where I went last year. Amazing. Has anybody had that happen? How icky, and I love that word because it really rings true. How icky does that make you feel? Right? And then, of course, your rabbit hole opens up and you start thinking all these thoughts. And then here we are back to square one, right? Be consistent. This isn't easy stuff to practice, and I'm not going to lie. As I mentioned earlier, it's exhausting to change our thought process. Please don't let yourself off the hook. Don't let yourself get away with much. But in the beginning, go easy, because it does take time. One thing I found very, very helpful is a book, which is probably on your resource list, called Chatter, The Voice in Your Head and Why It Matters, by Ethan Kross with a K. And it is truly amazing how he can get a grip. But he says, name your inner critic. Mine's Gloria, and she's learned to not be so bossy. Because when Gloria shows up, and she does, then I just tell her to go to bed. Like, I have these conversations with myself all the time. But guess what? Life has become easier, right? If my husband doesn't put something away, and he doesn't put a lot of stuff away, I haven't trained him. I'll take a look at whatever the deal is. It's like a dish on the counter, but the dishwasher's right there. His favorite thing is leaving his socks on the kitchen table on his way up to bed. I hope he never, are you okay? Like that. Yeah. Now, it's just because he's taking them off watching TV, his feet are hot, and I see them and I'm like, but you go to jail for that. So rather than repeating, I just stop. Because I know in the morning he'll do it. He'll see them and go, oh, socks, laundry, right? But you will never change anyone. So it's these little tiny things that will drive you nuts. Now, it doesn't end with the socks. Because last week, he left his frigging coffee cup on the counter again, right? And he dropped a tissue beside the basket, and he didn't put it in the basket. And you know what? I remember 15 years ago, when he said that to me, I didn't like it. So you know what? When he wakes up, he's getting it. That's my big rabbit hole. Is we dredge up all the stuff. Please don't do that. I mean, do it. We'll do it, right? But get a grip on it. I really mean get a grip. And I don't mean that sarcastically, right? Because here's another secret. Don't you love it? Full of secrets, right? Is that, what is the secret? Yeah, it's about the triggers. Is that they will always come. You're not going to stop them. That's just the reality, because we have that little ego brain, which is kind of right around here, right? That's where Gloria lives, in my amygdala. Her name is Gloria Amygdala. Yeah. Say that 10 times. But here's another thing, what I don't know about the human brain, because I'm not a brain researcher, but our prefrontal cortex is right here. It's so close. It's like 6 inches, right? Why does it take so long for us to figure out stuff that's happening here when it's right here? But there's a whole lot of other wiring in here, and that's where it goes, and we have to get a grip on it. Know that it's happening, just be aware. That's all I ask, is just be aware and go, oh, use a prop. I have a client, when he gets into that space, and he has shared with me that he's ADHD, so he gets in spaces, different spaces, quickly. He has a rock in his pocket, and it's smooth. It's worn out, like it's really smooth. So when he has those thoughts, he just rubs the rock, right? Kind of like a cricket, rubbing their feet together. That makes me relax, so maybe I should try, right? So know that you have control over it. You can have control over it. And 2 more things is be consistent. Just try a little bit every single day. And the days you miss, be okay with it. Just be okay with, kind of not remembering sometimes and maybe messing up. Be open to change always, always, always. If that's one thing that is constant and consistent, it's change. And if you're not great with change, life is going to be very challenging, and there will be many more rabbit holes. I don't want this to change. We did this back in the 80s. Like, it still works now because no, it doesn't. Things are changing more rapidly now as we are in this particular century. And so we don't want to get ourselves all messed up with yet another rabbit hole. Okay? So, close to closing here, I think. I haven't, yeah? Okay, good. So, oh no, sorry. Did that come out wrong? How did that even come out? I just meant good that I'm not, I want to respect the boundary of time, because y'all want to look around and have some snacks. Anyway, here's a couple of things. You have a great laugh. Hello. Yeah. So, who's familiar with Wayne Dyer? Dr. Wayne Dyer? Okay. Awesome. Love it. So here we go. More water. Bring a trough. So Dr. Wayne Dyer is one of the most amazing men I've ever listened to. He's one of my faves. And he says, favorite quote, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Nodding heads again, I love it. Yeah, so think about that one, right? And then there's another one I found today, which I thought would be super appropriate. I opened my meditation app, and boom, it just popped up. I'm like, great, I'm gonna use that tonight. Maya Angelou says, if you are always trying to be normal, I say, WTH is normal, or what is normal, you'll never know how amazing you can be. That's why I'm wearing these shoes. Because I didn't want normal shoes, I wanted to be amazing. Right. All right, and here is something I'd like to leave you with about boundaries. Things will not change if we don't set boundaries. Are they difficult? Yes, but they're critical. Healthy boundaries are an act of kindness and compassion to yourself and others. By clearly communicating what is acceptable and unacceptable to us, we ensure that our relationships are mutually respectful and caring. Two things in life that I've learned will get you everywhere are respect and gratitude. In practice those two things, life will be wonderful. Okay, next one. Boundaries support emotional regulation. And that was critical with all that's happened in the last 9 months. It was really tough to say to people, we can't have you over, we can't come over, right? Neither one of us could do stairs. I mean, I'm telling you, we were in bad shape, right? But the one thing I love about my husband the most is that he shares my belief about that, and he's got a really good attitude, right? So teamwork, right? I said, well, I've got the good heart, he's got the good legs, so we're one healthy person out of two people, right? So by not displaying appropriate emotions, and how do we emotionally regulate? Like I just said, we set boundaries. It really helps, and we talk to ourselves, and we have the conversation with whomever you want to have it with. You call your little internal person any name, but give it a name, right? So by not displaying appropriate emotions, we are more likely to have an impaired ability to make good decisions. Simple, right? So simple. Not easy at all. That's kind of the tough part. So I think that is all that I have to say. And some of you are like, phew, thank God, I thought she'd never stop talking. And I would just like to, again, thank you for your time. And I hope that there's maybe one or two little nuggets, because I really do appreciate being here and having the opportunity to speak to so many amazing people all at one time. I dreamt about this years ago in my bed. One last secret. Yesterday, the dentist called and said, hey, we have a cancellation. I'm like, awesome. I needed a filling. I was frozen up to here. Well, still frozen probably. And when the freezing was coming out, I bit my lip. So I'm like, well, of course, right before I'm going to speak, I bite my lip. So if you've noticed anything, I don't want to know about it. No apology necessary. I didn't bite my lip on purpose. So I would just like to thank the WIRC board for hosting and for inviting me. It's just been amazing, and I just really appreciate you all. And Taylor.